last thing I want this to do is to make anybody who wants to speak or nobody's going to fill Charlie's shoes, but do what Charlie did, do what people do. And I don't care if it's a liberal or a conservative. Mm-hmm. Be willing to sacrifice your life for what you believe in, because that's what Charlie did.
Austin, how are you, sir? Can you see me? Can you hear me?
I can see you. I can hear. Stephen, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you being here, sir. Thank you for reaching out. And for people who don't know, I want to make sure that I give you the floor and not cut you off. Tell people your story, your background a little bit, and where you were that day.
So just a little about me. I grew up in upstate New York. I joined the military, the Army, as an artilleryman when I was 19. Spent 7.5 years doing that at Fort Bragg and then also Fort Drum. I deployed to Afghanistan in 2011. Now I'm starting my own company, back and forth to school. I just recently took a semester off from a political science degree at UVU. Imagine, if you will, the American education system kind of ruined that for me, and understanding what political science really is from that standpoint.
As it has everybody, yes.
Yeah. I thought I was getting into something great, and then all of a sudden I get in there and I'm like, what are we doing as a country? Why is this normal? But needless to say, then as I came to Utah 2 years ago, I firmly believe that God put a coaching opportunity in my lap. I am LDS. I've always wanted to coach football. And let me tell you, it's one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. I'm actually skipping out on practice, though, right now to be here.
I know, and I appreciate it. I hate it. I hate to pull you from it. I'm really grateful to have you here.
What I have to say is more important right now. And if there's anything I want to portray to those boys, is that people speak their mind and not be afraid of what happens to you if you do. Sorry.
No, man.
Anyway,
don't apologize.
I was pretty excited for Charlie Kirk to come to UVU. I've watched him for years, and that's not to say that I've agreed with every single thing that he says. It's a prove me wrong platform. I wasn't there to say, yeah, man, we're totally cool. Let's talk about this thing that we agree on. That's not what Charlie represented. He wanted to bring people's ideas that challenged him, right? And so I got there about 2 hours early to get to the front of the line, because I wanted an opportunity to ask my question, because it's one of the things that I disagree with him about. And, I see a lot of people talking about, like you mentioned on the left, it's all, Charlie Kirk's a bigot, he's hateful, he's radical. But then on the right side, you have, it's an inside job. It's this political assassination set up by this, that, and the third, right. Deep state this. And I see all of this stuff, and it completely misses the mark of what was happening and what's important about what took place at UVU. Right. When I was standing in line, everyone around each other in the line, we were asking it, well, what's your question? What are you going to talk to him about? And we would discuss it, right? There was a kid in front of me who had a take on immigration that I don't agree with whatsoever. And his friend with similar values was trying to role play for Charlie so that he wouldn't be nervous when he got up there. Because we see countless times, kids get up there and they're shaky and they don't have their thoughts together. And I thought to myself, let me step in here and say, listen, I don't agree with you on this. I'm not going to discuss that part of it with you. What I want to do is make sure you're not nervous so you don't feel like a fool when you go up to talk to Charlie. I agree with Charlie on this particular issue. Let me be the guy. And I'm a big dude. This kid is a lot smaller than me. So in more ways than one, it presents an opportunity to give him an opportunity to be nervous, get over those nerves, and go ask Charlie something that he disagrees with him on. And so to me, in that moment, I thought to myself, how great is this, that we can, even before we get to the mic, even before we get to Charlie, we can sit here and calmly talk about issues that we're going to bring up, disagree with each other. There were no fights. There were no screaming, no hollering. There were two girls behind me that took a stance on abortion that I don't agree with, period. Mm-hmm. And they were saying expletives about Charlie and this, that, and the third. They were pretty far left, and I understood that. So instead of discussing with them their issue, we talked about stupid stuff like if you had celebrity parents, who would you want them to be? Because they're obviously very pop culture college student girls, right? So I found common ground with them, even though it wasn't political. And nobody is talking about how that's the platform that Charlie Kirk at his events provided even before anybody got to the mic. And this dude, I don't even want to say his name, because I think the biggest issue that we have as a media is putting these people out there because in their unintelligent, crazy minds, they want that attention. Now they're famous. Now they're this person that they always wanted to be. So I'm not even going to say his name. But this shooter took that away from us. He took people who were leftists, right? Who were on the right, but who disagreed with me. They took the ability for them to talk to me and have the opportunity to convince me of their standpoint.
Yeah.
Right? But you completely remove the freedom of speech that you say you value so much when you do something like that.
Yeah, and I will tell you, the same thing with Change My Mind was that's what it was, and with the faculty would do it, where they'd revoke a permit, and students would, exactly what you're talking about, they would say, yeah, we don't have a problem with it. You have the loudest voices, and you'd have teachers like this, and you'd have deans, no, and we'd end up on a sidewalk, and we knew that we could no longer keep it safe. But that's always what it was supposed to be. It was, hey, the left always said, can we have civil dialogue? But they would make it incumbent upon us to cool temperatures. And I said, yeah, okay, let's do that. Anyone can talk. And they're conceding that they've lost the war of ideas. That's a big thing. The people who act like this, they can't win in a dialogue of ideas. Let me ask you this, since you were there, and please feel free at any point, if you don't want to talk about it or what you do want to discuss, this is your floor. You were there when this happened. What was going through your mind, if you can remember? I would imagine a lot of shock and just an adrenaline dump.
Well, it's interesting, and part of the reason I came forward is because I understand other people who haven't been in wartime situations. I was in northeastern Afghanistan in the close to the Pesh River Valley. We went into the Korengal Valley ran an air assault mission there. Right, we were 5 miles from where Restrepo was filmed. Like it's not something I expected to experience for the rest of my life, but I'm grateful that I have the wherewithal to, okay, this happened. I went and talked to a therapist friend that night just to, hey, I'm coming over. I just want you to ask me some questions to make sure I'm okay. And then now I'm okay enough to talk about it. So I appreciate your empathy there. But quite frankly, we had discussions. I had discussions with people around me, because what I couldn't believe is what we call that in the military. Charlie was in a kill box, Stephen.
I know.
We call that a textbook kill box.
I know.
And so I'm not trying to discredit any of the wonderful security that he had, the ex-military, these guys, right? But there was a balcony over top from where he was at. Yeah. And I said, hey, guys, listen, I'm a vet. These are just things that I consider and think about. I don't like crowds. When I get into crowds, I calm myself down by developing a plan, right? And so I said the most likely threat is going to be from the balcony above him, because there were a bunch of people who disagreed with Charlie. They had the pride trans flag with the triangle, that they had signs. They did move them down, right? But I said, listen, the safest spot is going to be up against the wall, because the shooters, if there's a shooter or somebody up there, they're going to have a hard angle. Yeah. Your easiest exit is down through the tunnel, right? And I had that conversation with multiple people. I had the conversation of, constitutional carry in Utah, which I firmly support. It's the biggest threat and the biggest security simultaneously to this event. Right. And so we talked about that, and we talked about, what could it happen in Utah? Would it happen here? And obviously the threat is low because of who Utah what our identity is as Utahns. Even though I'm from New York, I've become a Utahn, right? Mm-hmm. But then as Charlie came out, the cheers, he's throwing out hats. I caught one. I gave it to a girl that was much more excited to be there than I was. I tried to slip it to her husband so that he could give it to her. That failed. But then the first question, of course, Utah is going to Utah. was about LDS, right? LDS versus Protestantism. And Charlie was super gracious. He expressed his love for us as LDS people, which we're so grateful for. And then the second person gets up, and this is I don't buy into any conspiracy. I think about, what did I see? What makes sense? I don't care what you guys think who are halfway across the country. And so the second person gets up and he starts asking a question about transgender shooters, right? And Charlie does what Charlie does, and he tries to separate one thing from the other to present a clear point. And he asked about the gang violence, and you just hear a pop, a really loud pop, and in my head it went firework, gunshot, right? And so the reason firework came out of my mind so fast is nobody's going to be dumb enough to light up fireworks here. That's just the most idiotic thing you could do.
Right.
And so Charlie slumps over, and everybody starts to duck. And I'm so grateful that I talked about that plan with people in my mind, because I started screaming, everybody up against the wall, go out through the tunnel, up against the wall. And it was chaos. It was, did this really happen? Is Charlie okay? Right. And I had my doubts from the beginning. I'm not dumb. I've been in a war zone before. I'm not dumb. I understand how those things look and what's going to, I knew it before I heard the reports come out.
Yeah.
And then I walked around the school, making sure people are okay. That there are some people that got a little trampled. I checked up on them, and believe me, I'm not trying to come off as some hero. I'm just telling you what I did.
No, you don't need to say it. I will say that you did absolutely act heroically, and you don't need to look. I know that it's who you are, and you served, and so you're being humble. I will tell you that you did, and I will tell you not just the physical lives that you saved, but people will remember that. You know what? Huge impact is people just knowing that there's someone next to them who cares. That's not a small thing, man.
Yeah. I appreciate it. So then I thought to myself, okay, what in these situations do we look for? There's one shot, but we don't know for a fact that it's one shooter. Right. Because schools like this, especially UVU with the liberal arts hallway, the liberal arts hallway is this really, really long, it's probably a 200-yard hallway where everybody has to go to take a class, and it's a huge threat because you've got a lot of people in a confined space. Mm-hmm. So I thought to myself, this whole school is a huge threat if we group up. So then I went around and I got on chairs when I said, listen, we don't know who the shooter was. And they're like, because there were those reports about George Zinn or whoever was taken into custody, they're like, oh, they got him. I said, they might have got one person.
Right.
We don't know if there's somebody else. So the last thing we need to do, I understand you want to pray. I'll pray with you, but then we got to go. Go home. Go home. And then I went and sat in my car. Traffic out of the parking lots was in a standstill for about 2 hours. And I'm watching the news. I see videos, that I didn't want to see, that nobody really wants to see, and relive it. And then this nut job gets on Fox News talking about, I know it wasn't George Zinn. It's an inside job, this, that, and the third. And I thought to myself, I can't sit here and let this happen.
Yeah.
Without telling the part of the story that I'm telling you. So I walked all the way across campus to that camera. I said, no, this is what was going down.
Yeah.
Forget about whether it's an inside job. Forget about the conspiracies. We were having discourse and somebody took that away from us.
Yeah, well, there's people, obviously, it's hard to address all, and there's so many conspiracies, but some of them defy reason. I don't know if you know this, but an antique 30-06 Mauser bolt-action rifle is actually not standard issue for Mossad. And it's just one of those things that people it's the click and the click and the click and the click and not being truthful. And so that's why I think your story is so important. I wanted to touch on something because you said kill box. And I've avoided talking about this because there's no one to blame but the terrorist who shot Charlie Kirk.
Absolutely.
But there are very few people who can relate to being in that spot, and I've done it for a very long time, and I stopped doing it because it became less safe.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I did have feelings of anger where I was going, how could you, you're going, this was missed, right? Because as a man, you're like, you could do something. For us, when we did change our mind, we never announced it because we had one really close call. We never had a speaker because we knew that could, now you don't know who's in the crowd hearing it, right? It was always an intimate conversation because then people can get riled up, and never, because early on I was reckless. A balcony, our back was to a wall. You can see those changes. And I'm sitting there going, like you said, kill box. And it's not to denigrate any security, but I remember feeling so angry and mad going, this could have been a lot safer. There are precautions, and this is something when we talk about moving forward, we can't miss some of the obvious security measures that could be undertaken to keep people safe. It's not a game. There are psychos in real life. You can't go out there, announce it in advance in a place where there are going to be balconies if you can't secure them. And it broke my heart, but I kept going back and forth between obviously anger and rage with the terrorism and, hey, we can't be silenced. And then you always try and look for a solution. You're angry and you go, how could this be missed? He could maybe still be alive. And then you just have to give it to God and go, like, we can do the best we can and try and coach people how to do the best they can going forward.
Yeah. You know, I again, just, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I don't want to discredit the efforts of the security that were there. Of
course.
There were many, anybody that says that there was no security just doesn't understand how to pick out a plainclothes officer. Mm-hmm. Right. I was discussing with the people in line. You see that guy right there? He's a security guy. Right. You're not going to be able to tell it, but I'm telling you right now, he's in that spot for that purpose. Yeah. Right. But those emotions of after it happens, why didn't I see it? Why didn't I see it? Right. There's video of the shooter, which it might have been the shooter. It might not. It's not detailed enough. But the video of the people walking up like, hey, is that a guy on the roof? You know, I could care less or couldn't care less about whether they reported it. It's like, why didn't I see it? Why didn't I look up and around? Right. And then I go through and I'm so serious. I'm not trying to discredit security, but to find out that there were built cement stairs to that roof on that campus. Yeah. Right. And so I think about it. It's like, did we learn nothing from the Butler, Pennsylvania shooter? Right. Every single roof with view to that site should have been swept. And our varsity staff uses a $750 drone with live feed to the controller, right? So there are those things, but it's just how do we miss that? But at the same token, I don't want to discredit the fact that Charlie knew the risks. That's what's motivating me to speak. And I felt like, you know, this dude, I guarantee you, he doesn't have security unless he thinks to himself every single day, this might be the one. Mm-hmm. This might be the one. Yep. And so I respect him so much, and I understand there's the risks and what might happen because there's, like you said, you had the close call. But like I told another reporter, the last thing I want this to do is to make anybody who wants to speak or nobody's going to fill Charlie's shoes, but do what Charlie did, do what people do. And I don't care if it's a liberal or a conservative. Mm-hmm. Be willing to sacrifice your life for what you believe in, because that's what Charlie did. I very much firmly believe that that's exactly what Charlie did, mm-hmm. because like I said, you can't have that kind of security and those kinds of setups without understanding that every show might be the last one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was talking about too yesterday, where people say, they'll say this all the time about not just Charlie, but I'm going to go, he was fearless. No, he wasn't. He was brave. He's brave, and there's a difference. I guarantee you, because every time I've sat in that chair and it gets dicey, I am terrified. And I guarantee you he felt the same way. I have lived that nightmare in actual dreams hundreds of times. I guarantee you he did. All of us who have been in those positions do it. People are now coming out. Tim Poole came out. I think Andrew Tate is one example. There were a bunch of people saying, did you know there was an attempt on my life last week? Did you know that I was swatted last month? We live under this cloud all the time. And if it's a liberal on campus, great. If they won't need, I would encourage them to have it, but they don't fear the same kind of repercussions. My dad was talking about this yesterday. Maya Angelou, I believe it was at the SMU campus. The guy said to my dad, well, why does Steven Crowder need this kind of security? Maya Angelou was here and didn't. And my dad said, and why do you think that is? And I hope that does open people's eyes, because this is an act of terrorism. It really is. It's, do you want to change people's minds? Do you want to change people's hearts? Do you want to impact the country more than you want to be a dad, more than you want your kids to have a dad? We're going to give you a choice to make. And I appreciate you saying that, because I'm sure that you've gone back and forth. I know a lot of people have, where you go, oh, it's not worth the risk. Should I take all the measures, and you've discussed this, the risk management that you possibly can, right? Say a prayer and set a guard. In this case, set every guard you can, and let them know. that they can't win. And I think it requires a little more aggressivity now because people understand the threat. Charlie Kirk sat down at a table, only espoused peace, and they took his life anyway.
Yeah. I think about what does this mean? Where do we go from here? And another reporter asked me, what do you think this means? What do you think the reaction will be? And how do you feel about it? And I said, first of all, it scares me to death, right? It scares me. You see the ultrasound pictures on my whiteboard. I have a son, my first son, who's about to be born here in the next 2 months. What kind of world does I appreciate it. What kind of world does this bring us into, right? And I thought to myself, people are talking Civil War, which I think is here. I think we're here right now. The Civil War concept is way up there. But at the same token, and this goes for conservatives and liberals alike, how you behave reaches a point to where the answer is not going to be from a voting booth. Right? It eventually we might be really far off from that point. Some people think we're really close. I have no opinion. I'm more of a prepare for it for when it comes, right? Yeah. But when you act like this, that is you send people more toward that outcome. And I don't want to see it. I don't want to live it because I don't care if you agree with me or not. I don't want to fight you. And that's what Charlie embodied is, agree with me or not, I'm not here to fight you. Mm-hmm. And so it's just, I don't understand. People say, don't talk politics at Thanksgiving. Don't talk politics at Christmas. Why not?
Right.
The people that you care about the most should be the people that you are willing to discuss these difficult things with.
Yeah.
And if you ruin your relationships based on that, were they close to you? Did you love them in the first place? Right. But having these difficult conversations, just circling back to that, sorry to quote Jen Psaki there, circling back.
That's okay. Hey, you know what? She took it from you. You can take it back.
Okay. Just to circle back to my main point of what Charlie embodied, there were a handful of things that I thought, Charlie, you're really off base. I disagree.
Sure.
But he gave us a platform to talk about it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, here's a good example. You said you're LDS. I'm not.
Yes.
A long time ago, I had a Convert Crowder week, and we had, I think we had LDS, we had Catholics. I don't know if we had a Jehovah's Witness, but here's the thing. I've had these conversations with Mormons often. And if I have a conversation with you and you have a conversation with me, and let's say you're trying to convert me and I'm trying to convert you, even if we don't agree, that means we care. It means that each one of us is trying to save the other's soul. That may sound offensive, but if it's the truth and you think someone's soul may be in jeopardy, it means you care to try and speak truth to them. And I usually have very good conversations with Mormons about that and about Scripture and where I disagree, but I know that it means they care, and in no way am I offended.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people talk. Now, let me set the record straight. I'm this kind of LDS.
Okay.
Right?
You might drink a Dr. Pepper every now and then. I get it.
I'm not going to strip down and show my tattoos. And I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do things anymore. But for 15 years, I wasn't.
Right.
And so, but what I realized is that the life I'm living, according to the way that I want to live, is not going to work out. It didn't work out for a really long time, and I finally came around. But anyway, when it comes to LDS, missionaries are some of the most attacked people. Oh, well, then you shouldn't be bothering at our door. We had a no soliciting sign, this, that, and the third. But the analogy that I love is if I have $100 trillion of cash in a briefcase, and I can give cash to whoever I want. I can change their lives. I can bring them success. I can help them out in whatever way I want. I'm of course going to go knock on doors. Hey, you want? Here's $100,000. Can you use it? Right. Sure. And so with the way we believe about our faith and the way we profess our faith, it's like we firmly believe in this path to exaltation and eternal life. Mm-hmm. The primary focus of Christ and God to us is to bring about the eternal life of man.
Right.
If I know that I can live forever, and I know that you can live forever, But if I say, hey, sure, I just want to be the only one, that's incredibly selfish and self-absorbed.
Right.
And so with going to back to the debate format,
Yeah.
Cliff Knechtley is not the biggest fan of LDS people, which is fine.
Sure.
Right. But one thing that he says in one of his videos is, of course I have racist friends. Of course I have bigoted friends. Of course I have homophobic friends. Of course I have non-Christian atheist friends who I disagree with.
Yeah.
Because if I don't have them as friends, if I don't have them as acquaintances and people that I can talk to, there is a 0% chance that I can convince them of my beliefs.
Right.
Or that I can convince them of what I firmly believe is right.
Yeah.
But if I am acquainted with those people, if I am friendly with those people, there now becomes a 0.5% chance, a 1% chance, a 2% chance. No matter how slim it is, you still need to take advantage of the opportunity to discuss with people. And that same perspective applies to leftists. If they are so set in what they believe is correct and true, have friends and acquaintances of people who are not of the same viewpoint. So, because that's the only way you're going to convince them to come over.
Well, I think acquaintances, I would also caution people from keeping them in the circle of trust, just because I know how that turns out, right? You need good advisors, but convincing people. But, the same applies. I think it's really relevant here. Trans. Look, it's a 42% attempted suicide rate before transition, and it's the same after. It doesn't work, right? And so if you're speaking to someone in love, who's committing the genocide? The person who's trying to say, hey, learn to love and accept it's really difficult to fight biology, or the people who say, let's enable it because the results are in. And that's something that, it's, hey, if I know something that could improve your life, and you can apply the same for the rest of the country. I know that's what Charlie talked about. Hey, there's a better way for this to go. That is truth in love. And I know you have to go, and I have to go back to practice, but one thing I know you talked about, looking at this, your background in the military and security, seeing this. Look, you can't spot everything. You said, why didn't I look up? You can't spot it, especially when you're in the heat of the moment. But if ever you think it would be helpful, or you'd like to, and kind of get a portion of this back, we may have an event that if you'd like to come in and help eye out some security, so you can maybe cathartically feel proactive and keep some eyes on it. Hey, it's up to you. I'd like to avail the opportunity, because we do that every time, and there's some in the works, and it's going to be a different level of security and an approach. So if you'd like to be a part of that, you are welcome to, because I know that you care and you know what you're talking about. And I know I can also understand why you would want to toss it as far as humanly possible.
I figured out after 5 years of not knowing what I'm doing with myself after the military that I need to do everything that gives me purpose, right? Football for one. And I'm not going to sit here. There are guys in the military that I know that will watch this and probably be like, Hunsinger's not a pro, right? We didn't do that kind of stuff as an artilleryman in Afghanistan. So I can't claim to have the experience and expertise to lead that kind of team, but it would be a pleasure to be on the team to share viewpoints. Absolutely.
And we would love to have you. And I will leave this interview with you. People use the term hero. You acted heroically. And we will never know how many lives you may have saved or not. That's one of those numbers that only God can know. But I will tell you this. A lot of people only think of themselves. They duck down and run. And those people who don't have your experience, those people who've never been in a situation like that, knowing that there was someone there who was thinking of someone other than themselves and was there to help is very powerful. And that's something you'll keep with you forever. And you know what? That's indicative, man, of who you are. Because those moments test us. It's a pressure cooker. And hey, I know you got a son on the way. I'd be really proud. And I hope that he can see this forever and know what his dad is like and who his dad was. Because I also know you're probably not the guy to say it, but I'll make sure that I do. And I'll tell everyone I can.
Gets hard because you think about all the things wrong you've done in your life, but I appreciate it, Stephen. Thank you.
Hey, doesn't matter, man. We all make mistakes. If God can forgive you, what's some morning show comedian / journalist. Of course, we all do bad stuff, but you did a lot of good that day. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you were there, and we'll reach out to you soon, Austin. I really appreciate it. Please be well, be safe, and get some rest.
Absolutely. Take care. God bless you.
Austin Hunsinger, everybody. Oh, you're still here watching this on YouTube? There's no more. It's over. Just like YouTube. YouTube is over. It's not a thing anymore. How many Seth Meyers clips do you need? Head on over to Rumble. Follow me there. Live on weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, where we can actually speak freely and don't have to self-censor. YouTube it's really not a thing. Like, you ever seen one of those towns that maybe was like a mining town, or maybe they made some kind of alloy? You say, hey, I wonder what they did in this town. It takes a while to find a person who can tell you what they did in that town, and even then you don't fully understand it. That's YouTube. YouTube is that town. So go to Rumble.